of trying to contact his mother to an act of this fierce sort of determination of finding the fakes who were tricking people into believing that they were contacting their loved ones. Because there's a difference between tricking people to just entertain and there's outright lying to them that they're contacting their family and finding fraud. In fact, he would do this so much that he got a really bad rep in the spiritualism community. So he would go in disguises of like fake mustaches or like really weird hats and just sit in the corner, and then as soon as the bullshit would basically start, he would unveil himself and be like, I am Houdini and this is a fraud because of this. Can you imagine that? Just like doing your thing and then out of nowhere like Houdini like rips off a mustache and takes off a top hat and is like, you are bullshitting all these people.
Yes, you're a fake.
Is that they probably weren't expecting it at all, so you can just imagine it's like, oh yeah, I'm totally nailing this. And then out of nowhere it's like top hat flies off and then you're just like, oh god, there he is, he's here. Shit. But all kidding aside, he did do this and he did cause quite a stir. In fact, he was very well welcomed into the scientific committee of the time, and they actually put up this sort of contest to see if they could actually find a medium, and if that medium could go through all of their tests and prove that they are true and that they really do have powers, they would get a cash prize of $2,500. That's a lot of money for proving if you're truly psychic or not. They went through a lot of people, and Houdini was very, very on his A game. Nobody got past him. In fact, the scientific community once tried to give the money to one woman, and Houdini didn't know about it. It was like behind his back, and when he found out, he was outraged and demanded her to come in and take the tests in front of him, and she couldn't break him. And she finally like threw something across the room and said, oh, spirits did that, and then it got lost. So you're probably wondering how Conan Doyle comes into this and how they become friends. Well, they're both like celebrities at the time, obviously, so they knew each other. Doyle was actually a huge fan of Houdini's. He actually believed that he did have magic powers, that he was a sorcerer or a wizard. You're a wizard, Harry. So they did know each other at the time. Doyle was a big fan. Houdini knew of Doyle and his work, so they knew each other, they would talk. The thing was that Doyle was really into spiritualism, especially contacting his son who died in the army, Kingsley. He really wanted to believe in it, he believed in it truthfully, and he also believed in what Houdini was doing, for the most part. That the people who were faking spiritualism, faking being mediums and all that stuff, were giving actual spiritualism a bad rap, so he obviously wanted to weed out the bad ones too. I mean, who wouldn't? You want it to be accurate, you don't want people to be like, oh, that's totally bullshit. But you know, you have this man who totally believes in spiritualism with this man who totally loves to call out people on their BS. That sort of collided like a lot. Like Houdini would try to prove to Doyle that tricks can happen and that it's not necessarily magic. He would do tricks for Doyle and Doyle would be like, this is sorcery. And Houdini would be like, no, I did this right now. That's another thing too about this time. People believe that Houdini was just like pulling all this stuff to keep in the limelight, and I'm not entirely sure that's the case because it did start with him trying to contact his mother while he was in grief. So I feel like it was an act of righteousness, but it always